I don't know. I was like a 6 out of 10.
That's way more than I would have given it, Blue. You are a generous gentleman. As we do get
Thank
into
you.
the pistol round, though, and once again, Flipside. This time, last time we saw Tempo Storm doing it with the utility play on their terrorist approach. It's going to be Flipside doing it this time, which indicates smokes onto A with a fast plant at default. But early damage onto Shara, and they've already been discouraged away from that Ivy position.
And now Tempo Storm still holding themselves pretty strong right now, but Flipside Tactics trying to rotate the strat over here, moving a lot of their players over towards that B-bomb site potentially. But as we take a look now, world that it's going to be grouping up, just pushing in through the bathrooms, watching out for a potential push from Tempo Storm in through ladder room, which is not going to be happening. It's mainly going to be on N1 once again to try and hold this. He spots there's players present just above the ramp, and he's going to be waiting for them to push down in here, just waiting for the correct time to try and throw the smoke in, as that's one of the very few utility items that the guys on Flipside do have to work with here. But it goes down in time, and it's going to be holding them back for a few more seconds at the very least, as Flipside still tries to figure out exactly what they want to do, but they are definitely leaning towards an inner hit right now.
I can tell you what Flipside want to do, Blue. They want to win the pistol round and get a 3-0 start.
That's very true. That would be a very good start again, especially on T side now. Since
I'm just going to provide you with the Maddenisms this cast, but fortunately they saved the utility after that initial approach and investigation at the outer bomb site, because now they can smoke off the lower sidewalk. But Henny, if he was absent in the last game, he wants to change that early on in this one as he picks up a kill against Blade. They're all traded, though, and Flipside now should be able to get this bomb planted. No utility left to deploy further beyond the site. One nade to work with. If it finds Bolts, that would be a decent target, but they can't hold Tempo Storm away from this retake position. The nade does find Bolts, so a little bit of fortune in that Pokeball, but it's still going to come the other way as suddenly Lucas has to fight forward. 1 versus 2, low HP player to his left. He snaps over, finds him on the ladder, but he can't turn back and world edit. I think we all heard how that ended.
That was almost a very good clutch from Lucas there, too. Positionally, he played that very well. It's just when it came down to that final aim duel, was not able to execute those shots. So Flipside to get the start on T side here. They're going to go immediately into the force buy now, or just the buy up, as it would be for these guys. Tempo Storm, in the meantime, are going to be force buying, and it's going to be an interesting one. 2 scouts. One being picked up by Showtime, the other one by Henny. And the other 3 players are going to go for an investment. Lucas is the player that's going to save this time around, or just will be using the P250 rather, so that Henny can have the big gun, and of course he can save money just by investing into the P250 on his own end.
Overtime, Scout fires into the smoke. Nothing to be found. 2 scouts spot up, so aggressive stuff, but Bolt is going to start at 5-7. Headshot, Shara puts himself mid-air, can't accurately fire back. Thankfully, Markeloff gets the kill. That would have been 2 men down very early on. Shara's on 17. He's going to push forward. He actually still manages to find Lucas, though, as the nade does the early damage.
Char, now
Sorry, I was going to say I'd get out right now.
That's exactly what they're doing now, trying to fall back a little bit here. Maybe try to find 1 or 2 kills on the way out. Phelps lining up an angle, going to try to take down Bonding. A flash coming his way, but Phelps just not connecting those shots whatsoever. And now Showtime out in the open here. He's going to be shut down by Bonding as well. Flipside with the 2-0 start. And of course, Shara stacking up nice amount of cash there. He finds 2 kills with his UMP that round, and Bondic 2 with the rifle. Not going to get a huge amount of cash from that one, but of course, now this forces Tempo Storm onto the dry round. Not going to be able to invest anything this time, as they do need to save for that first gun round. So Flipside will have a good chance to stack up some extra cash should they lose it.
Money, money, baby.
Indeed.
That's what Henry always says. I would never say that, though. It's a bit of a lame line.
Just a little bit out of class nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if he can throw me under the bus at Pro League when I'm not there, I could throw him under the bus here. Lucas in position to try and take a head off with the USP, but he's caught in the open, can't quite get him behind that electrical box, and it's all Flipside on the entry. Not surprising. And fortunately for them, they do get at least 1 kill on the SMG, but Henny, this is even better. He'll pick up the Galil. They're going to be buying in the next round regardless, so any further damage he could have done would have been beneficial. As Phelps also managing to pick up 1 in the round, but that's the way it'll end. 3 players stay alive. SMG kills. Now can Blade and Mark... They can't get there. I was going to say, if they can get to that Galil that was dropped, it might be nice, but they couldn't get that far.
Yeah, no armor on N1 that time either, so after he picked up the rifle, it was not like he was really going to be able to do much with it anyway. He just got aim punched to death, so he's taken down. We see the rebuy coming in. He's going to invest for the Ompi. We'll have armor sitting behind it, but no utility for him, and that actually, now as we take a look at the rest of the team, we're also going to see pretty much a lapse of utility on these guys too in terms of HEs and mollies. Not a lot of that. It's mainly just going to be smokes and flashbangs to hold back Flipside. So if it's going to end up being one big conjoined rush from the side of Flipside, then it might end up being a problem here for Tempo Storm if they try to counter out against it. But N1 getting very aggressive early on here in this round, pushes out through the Ivy Halls, tries to find a shot but can't connect it, and he too loses about 25% of his health pool.
There's Lucas, control room, trying to control the situation, you could say, Blue. That's how puns work. As Blade is waiting in A main, Bondic's already toward the ladder, and Shar is just going to watch to make sure there's no aggression at B for a fast flank. But it's still all about playing the picks and letting time expire before they do execute on this A site.
That control the situation punt was probably your worst one yet, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate you being so generous.
That one was about a 2.
Wow. I appreciate your support. It's very encouraging moving forward. It's only going to get worse for you now, Blue.
Okay.
Did you know that blue is a color? Yeah, that's how puns work. No, that's not. Smoke out. That'll discourage Markeloff. As he will put a Molotov out. Phelps going to jump across that now. It has segregated him slightly from the position. Good thing the smoke dissolves it quickly, because if they had executed at the front of the site at the same time that he and both Henny were back in that alley position, there's a lot of room to be gathered in A. Blade's now going to evaluate that as he walks through A main. Bolts is still waiting for this fake to be confirmed, because he's not sure there's so much utility in front of him. He can't spot toward the hallway. Blade, as a result, gets all the way to hell before being even spotted.
Yep, and Phelps is immediately going to fall. That reveals the Ivy push. Lucas still holding good up top, though. He's able to pick up 1 kill in Showtime. Boosted up on top of Ticket. Finds a second. So not necessarily dead in the water as of yet here on outside, as Bolts is going to finally pick up another kill. Shara trading out at least 1 blow here, but Henny executing with the op and managing to shut down Markeloff. So it's all on Shara at this point. Taking a bit of a long-range battle with N1, but the time's going to run out. So Shara has to fall back, keep himself alive, make sure he saves his rifle. And Tempo Storm this time around is going to pick up the first gun round.
Very well done for them. Now they need to follow it up, because there's still going to be guns brought out on this on this T side, which means, and we talk about this, obviously it's not ever something you plan. You want to win every round you can, but in the situation where you go 4-1 down, having been reset after the first gun, it actually is the worst case scenario for the CT team, because we know the guns are more expensive, the utilities are more necessary, and you get a reset later on in the half. So they need to make sure they follow this up swiftly. And it's World Edit as well as Henny that do have the AWP, but look at Henny's position. He's already pushed out toward Ivy, and he's already looking for the shot. Now, the issue is that there's going to be 2 players here. The flash comes out. That's going to just tell him, thankfully, he doesn't stick around much longer, but they now know, they'll have heard him jump, that he's there, and World Edit's going to win that initial exchange.
The op-on-op duel there being there too. I don't think N1 was expecting to go up against that. Was probably expecting a player with a rifle. A big mistake from him, as now World Edit's picked up that first kill, and Tempo Storm have lost their best opper here. Phelps is going to move out to retrieve it, get some damage on the way through it. Only going to lose about 50% of his HP, though, so not the biggest deal. But in the grand scheme of things, now the bigger problem is going to become if we do see this moving over towards the inner bomb site. Right now, Tempo Storm are kind of expecting things to be played towards that outside yard again, with Ivy being picked off very early on, when in reality, it's all going to just explode here onto this B bomb site. Most of it coming down ramp, too, so that's going to put a lot of pressure onto Bolts, and he only finds a 1-for-1 trade.
Bomb going to go down on B. Flipside in potential to do that reset we spoke of. Showtime. Going to try and enter back through the Z connector. Bondic's got the close angle. No one in a position to trade off of this for Showtime just yet. Now as he goes wide though, Bondic walks out and the headshot, it's applicable. It goes, takes him down. It's now going to be Phelps trying to fire through the alleyway lower. Well, Lucas gets on the train at upper, and again, not a tradable position, so they have to fight forward. The smoke out behind World Edit is going to buy him space, but is he going to be aware for Showtime pushing through? And this is the right play. Fires too soon. World Edit with a fast shot in return, and it's all on Phelps.
Phelps picking up 1 pickup there to shut down World Edit, but now he's alone. He's running out of time. He's not going to be able to defuse this bomb. Looking to at very least take down Shara, so drop all the guns with it. So Shara has to switch over his own gun, I do believe, and Phelps will finish him off. Not just that, but we can see Phelps surviving to the end of the round. He's going to carry that op over to the next round, so some great economical damage being done here. In fact, some of the players on Flipside not even going to be able to afford the full buy with their utilities, so going to have to downgrade to a Galil.
Yeah, but that's still a huge advantage over these pistols. So yes, they keep the 1 AWP, they'll throw that to Henny, but this is the situation. And now Henny has to play passive, because if he doesn't open the round really early, he needs to save that AWP further. Because if he gives that away, now not only is their economy, words are hard, screwed, but they also give it up to the T's for free.
So Flipside stack a lot of their players on top of ladder room very early on here, just trying to make some noise. Tempo Storm with their own positioning here too. Going to be a little bit more fidgety, it would seem, this time around. But Henny already doing work with that op, shutting down a first play as he pushes towards the back of the B bomb site, shutting out World Edit, eliminating him. Now more players from Tempo Storm are going to rotate in to correspond to this in towards B. However, Flipside are actually getting ready to go for a big play down ladder room. Shara takes the charge on this one, pushing out. They get some pressure coming out through T-Connector 2. Showtime falling down. It's all on Phelps sitting on there on that A-bomb to try and hold this pressure, but he's not going to be able to do it. Bolts pushing back out. Finds 1 pickup to be able to shut down Shara. Now N1 trying to rotate into position. Finds it, shuts down Blade, but not before he loses 1 more of his teammates. So this brings it into a 2 versus 2. Bolts has found a rifle, but he's quickly going to drop it to Bondic, and now it's all on N1.
And he's going to get killed immediately. He's not even going to check to his right. Markelov's made his way toward help. And he's going to get the kill. 5-1. Now the economy, it's still not amazing, but it's forcible for the CTs. They can narrow this. They can limit themselves to $2,000, and they'll still be able to buy in the next round. And they're actually going to go beyond that. They're going to go for the full force on FAMAS. So now this becomes a must-win. Well, they'll go 6-1 down CT side Tempo Storm, and that's a huge problem as well. Now, the good news is if they win on this force, and this is why the call was likely made, they can actually break Flipside still because they have made the rounds close and contested in the last few.
Tempo Storm actually going to be playing very aggressive in this round too. Take a look at how far they've pushed up to the A-bomb site now. Showtime along with Lucas already moving inside of T-Connector too. I don't know if they've given themselves away yet, but Blade suspects something is up. So he's going to be very cautious with peeking around this corner here. Tempo Storm seem patient enough, but as Volts tries to push, Shara finds him out and shuts him down. So already one of the members of Tempo Storm falling here. Blade trying to bait out some aggression inside of that T-Connector, but even he's tired of waiting. Goes for the pop flash, doesn't really connect on to Lucas, but still nothing rolling out here. Tempo Storm starting to fall back a little bit. They do need to give room, but there we go. The Molly is going to force Lucas out of position. Blade shuts him down, and now they've got a 5-on-3 advantage. N1's already been dropped down to 4 HP. They just lost Showtime and Phelps at 25. Tempo Storm not looking good at all, trying to hold this. Markeloff holds off his own duel versus Phelps, and this round is over. It's just on Vanny with 4 HP.
I'm not going to talk. There's no need. Let's let the suspense do the work.
Sounds good.
Most people mute us anyway, Blue. I'm
not saying anything.
Must be very quiet. Did they mute me? Oh, I thought they actually muted me. Thanks, producers.
Uh-oh. Someone's sneaking around him.
Well, there it is. Bondik's going to find him eventually. You got to be very quiet when you're hunting wabbits.
Almost a team ace there, too. Bondik stealing away, too. So we're all the only player that's not going to get a piece of the action that time. But Flipside off to a hot start, and the real problem here is going to become the fact that we saw the problems on the T side with Tempo Storm in the last in the last map there too. If this continues and we don't really see a much improved T side on this map, then will the Flipside hold this lead after the first half? What is Tempo Storm going to do to bounce back into it, especially on Train, which is a much harder T side map to play?
Lucas going to try and get forward. He's going bad to worse for this CT economy. Lucas is actually going to just sit below the ladder, try and get close proximity with the pistol. They're still slowing this down, Flipside. They've always been known as a tactical team with Blade at the helm, but they've never been the slow tactical team that we talked about, like Thorin mentioned with Luminosity and the Brazilian style of waiting timeout, like Na'Vi, coming from a similar, the CIS region. But they definitely have tricks up their sleeves. And they just got to figure out where these pistols are, read if there's no stack in play. Now Showtime with a slight flash does manage to still pick up one, but he won't be able to do much more with that.
And now Tempo Storm just trying to put themselves in positions to trade, essentially. N1 and the little cubby over here just on the short alley towards the A-bomb site. Phelps waiting in the wings just outside of Ivy. They just found Henny. He's gone down. And now Bolts is the only real player that might be able to impact at this point. Phelps is going to be a little bit too obvious with his intentions. He actually does peek out and find the kill on the Blade. So actually, I got to flip my statement there. Bolts is a player that is unable to do anything. Phelps finds at least one pickup. A bit unlikely considering their positions, but I guess that makes sense.
You get a 50-50 chance there, Blue. Well done.
And I screwed it up. What do you know?
That's all right.
That's just me.
We can't all be winners. Just like Tempo Storm in this game.
Savage.
But they do have Enny back onto the AWP in this round. And he's had a better showing early on than in Cash. However, the impact of his team, that's a little bit more questionable. On the CT side, it's a full investment just to get this AWP and rifles back up, even though it's now 4 rounds against them. It's going to limit them severely in the next round. Henny, he's going to play passive as well. Showtime boosted up on top of the ticket boost, so that's a trade potential as he sees above the smoke after Henny's initial shot. So he'll get the information, bait and switch play, Lucas inside of the site, but watch Phelps right now because he's pushed up toward Ivy. And this is a decent position, but the problem is they're playing it solo. That's a position where you want to flash through, you want to have the trade, you want to shut down Ivy early because now losing that duel, their defense has to go more passive. Lucas has to walk from A site back toward Ivy. It creates so much more space out toward the initial quad position and E-box on A. So bit questionable that they're not trying to dedicate more if they're going to get aggressive on that early information.
And it's not even like they have rounds previously where this kind of solo play has worked. It's always failed. They've done this about 3 or 4 times now, and almost every single time the player that pushes it just gets dispatched by a 2-stack or just a single 1-versus-1 duel there. So Tempo Storm just keep making these mistakes over and over. It's the same thing that happened on the last map there with the positioning from Char. They never really tried to counter that out. They never really read it at all. So Markeloff now going to start to push in, as it was looking like it was going to be going towards a default play here, but they've since changed it up and are moving this towards the inside side instead.
Markeloff to take down Lucas as well, so Ivy is a massive point of contention. This is going to force the rotation. Bolt's gone passive on B. Molotov buys a little bit of space, but there are going to be 4 players still up in the hallways looking for this plant. They'll go now. Flash, Bolt, blind, taken down immediately as he repeaks, still without his vision. World Edit's going to get the shot. Char to plant the bomb. And if you want to see, by the way, how that Ivy position is played, watch how Na'Vi would push it. Watch how Virtus.pro used to push it when they were still playing this map on the regular basis, how Pasha would walk out and get flashed, usually by either Snacks or Neo. Usually Neo. So, I mean, there's lots of ways that it can be played correctly, but it's usually a 1-2 punch, not a solo endeavor.
The worst part about this round is just how impactful Markeloff was able to be with his play, pushing over through Ivy. Finally, he is taken down by N1, but still, he's killed so many people at this point that it doesn't even matter. And he was so impactful, and he wasn't even the player that was part of the main push. He was the player that was faking moving into the A-bomb site to try and cause some rotations, and it worked, and he still killed the majority of the members of Tempo Storm. They are a complete mess right now on the CT side, and honestly, a lot of these players just don't really seem to be able to consistently frag at all. The highest kill score right now is N1, who was doing the worst in the last map. He's up at 6 and 8. Everybody else below that is 5 for Phelps. Bolts and Showtime are down at 4 kills, and Lucas only has 3.
And you can see how frustrated they look to be, as we do have the timeout for obvious reasons, I would say. In this case, a little bit silent down on that Brazilian campsite. We can't really... Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see them. Can you see Flipside?
I can see Flipside. I was just wondering how much vocal communication there is. Obviously, we see Blade on screen right now being quite vocal. He's known to be a leader that takes charge.
I can't really see. Whoever's on the left side, I think, is
doing the majority
sort
of the talking.
There's not a lot of back and forth, as I can tell. It's more just listening right now from what we can see down below.
I mean, the big change they have to make is as mentioned, that IV exchange that they've been trying to do with one man pushing out is incredibly stupid, in my opinion. I mean, sure, if it works, they're going to look like geniuses, and great, they get the pick. But even then, it's very rarely solo push from the T side anyway. So if you get 1 kill, you're probably going to be traded. Usually that's why you flash out, and you can get the trade yourself. You can fall back, and that position's still controlled. We saw it. They lose the player that time that goes out. Phelps goes down. Lucas has to go passive in the site. He then dies. Round's over. At that point, round's over. Yep. There's no way you're going to get real estate back in that round. So they need to control that. B site, okay, that's a straight-up brawl on the way through. The problem is that every time they've hit B, they've been successful at pulling the CT player back. So we've never actually seen a close quarters exchange at the bottom of the ramp where we see, most players play with a flashbang or a Molotov, or even up toward upper where Taz will play on the ground below the ladder. We haven't really seen that much. Pissed around, okay, aside, that was a little bit different when Henny was there, but they're not controlling enough of the map to leave themselves in good positions. They have to rotate far too early because they're losing the first pick. They're losing all of the important situations. I would like to see a buddy system on Ivy first and foremost, or play it passive altogether. Just get smokes inside of it, buy time, and stay with a player inside that quad position that can shut down the A approach and turn back from Hell and counter it off when they do approach from Ivy.
There are other Brazilian teams, too, that do sort of play with that kind of strategy. When I was looking into the last LAN for the minor, Alien Tech is one that does this, but this time they're just going to go all out, and again, does not really work at all. They get a 2-for-1 trade. However, not a whole lot of intel gain from this one. They are going to rotate more towards the inner site. However, considering the Arsenal Tempo Storm we're working against, this is really not going to cause a whole lot of fear from Flipside, as they should still be able to win most of these gun duels. And also, worst part too, Phelps didn't even pick up a gun to try and arm himself up a little bit more. If he had had the armor, this would have been a great find with this gun, but now that he hasn't found the gun, it's going to be a bit unfortunate, because there we go. He's dead now. Bondig has shut him down. World Edit finds another kill, and a Showtime. Just N1 left alive. He'll be taken down by Bondig as well. Tempo Storm not going to be able to impact that heavily in this round either.
So 9-1 now for Flipside's tactics. But Henny back on the AWP, another full investment. Round loss bonus up to 6 rounds. Max is out at 5, so insignificant that I mentioned the extra one.
Flipside are also like, this is the craziest thing too, is for the most part these are just pretty straightforward strats from Flipside. They're not really doing anything very crazy. It's just the same general things over and over again. They've either been going, I think the craziest thing they've done would have been to have a little bit more pressure towards Ivy, but even that's not really too far out there. They've mainly just going for either the default or just a heavy stack towards the inner site there, and maybe one or two splits that headed themselves over towards A too. We do see Hen1 picking up that first kill over there to shut down Bondic. Now he's going to fall back though and yield control, which has been a problem in the past.
5, 3, 4, and 4. That's how many players have survived each time for the last 4 rounds from Flipside as well. So they're going to be able to buy pretty much into the rest of the half regardless. They've got 2 players that essentially had 16K to start off this round before buying utilities. It's Phelps. Is going to play more passive on Ivy this time. This is more the approach that I want to see. If you're not going to be able to control that fight, if you can't dictate the pace, then stay passive and play off of Lucas, who's on top of the train, but he's found by World Edit.
World Edit shutting him down now. Flipside's members are just going to start to move themselves in position to go for a take. They are getting a little bit low on time, but they have enough time to line up this default. And as Blade finds another opening pick here, shutting down Showtime, they're going to be out here towards the outer bomb site. Bolts mollied out of his initial position, sitting over here behind the bomb train. He'll take a duel versus Blade, but has to give it up a little bit, falling back again. There's too many grenades coming in his way, and he's too far out in the open. He does have other teammates to support those same angles, so he can rotate around, but with those mollies there, can't push up, and as soon as he jumps up on that bomb train, Roll that it catches him. Where's that support that I was just talking about, though? They've got these 2 players sitting in the back of the site, but they're not doing anything to try and help him out. He was that single man pushed up, and he just died for no reason. They couldn't afford that in what is now this 2-on-3 situation. Thankfully, N1 takes down Shar as they have a chance at this, but still, they're not putting any pressure on the T's.
It's low HP on Markeloff in Hell, and Phelps knows that he's there, but he's not aware of the situation of his HP. Now with that pick, does bring it to a 2 versus 2, but they've already committed to the save. They've already fallen away from this. Henny's gone extremely passive towards CT spawn, and once more, with the full investment, they'll get $3,400, but it's not going to be much to work with. It does put most of them right around the 4K mark. Bolts is the only one well significantly under it, but I would force at this point. You got to force at this point. You've got an AWP up. Get every gun out possible. Couple smokes to maybe control out Ivy. I wouldn't even worry about that. Let's get the firepower rolling, and let's get in crossfire positions. Try and shut down Flipside.
They're also just way too far behind at this point. They can't even afford to save anymore. They need to start picking up some rounds, regardless of what they can bring to the table in terms of utility or gun power. They just need to try and string some rounds together here. If this ends 14-1 or anywhere even close to it, 13-2, for instance, then they are not going to be able to make a comeback at all in that second half. And Flipside will be moving on to the Major and a crushing 2-0 here. So now we can see from Flipside lining up that default once again. This has actually been something that like a lot of teams try to go for this in a lot of rounds, but actually I've noticed Flipside, they really have not been doing the default all that often here. It's only been in a couple rounds, and there's been quite a few of them as well, where they line up for the default, but then change their minds mid-round because of information they're able to get from early peaks. So this is not going to be solidified just as of yet. Markeloff already pushing his way through the tunnel here. He'll be going up against Phelps. Phelps holding a good angle here. Keep in mind, Tempo Storm not been the best of these duels, and he's looking away right now, but corrects it and is able to take down Markeloff.
There you go, stays passive. That's the first 10. They've had the early pick. They control Ivy early on. Now they've got another smoke there from World Edit. Unfortunately for this point in time, Lucas has gone passive to support Showtime and Z-Connector, so they still give up quad, they still give up Hell, and a flash comes through. They get that pick, but Lucas, he's going to get the shot from afar. It's traded, and now Showtime needs to be very clever about buying time. He's going to spot Blade going for the plant. Did he spot the player going below him under the smoke, though? Regardless, he's going to stay passive. That was a terribly bounced nade back in towards Z where it was thrown from. Playing a little wall ball, Bolts.
And again, they're just trying to pressure into this site, but it's too passive. Look at this. They're running out of time so quickly. They have such little intel as to the positioning of Flipside's players. One's going to push up there. Good kill from Bolts, actually. The fact that he manages to get that while still on the ladder. World Edit trades it out, but Showtime finds a trade for the trade by taking down Blade. Now it's all on World Edit in a 1 versus 2 here. Bolts is going to shut him down as well. So there's a round finally being picked up by Tempo Storm, but they still have a long way to go to make a comeback.
And Bolts knew he was up there because Showtime did spot him going toward that ladder. He was actually a little bit passive, but it worked out because he waits for the rotations to come around, and they actually play as a team rather than an individual. Phelps goes passive on Ivy, gets the first pick. Okay, they're traded. They still give up a little bit more real estate than I would have liked, but at least they had a plan for the retake, and it goes accordingly. Not only that, as soon as they get on the defuse, Bolts knew that they'd already checked every other angle. He gets in front of his teammate, so even if he goes down, he meat shields it and allows potentially that smoke in the defuse to be more viable. Smoke in the defuse, Blue. Don't smoke cigarettes and try and defuse a bomb. I don't recommend it.
Why would you be doing that? That's like...
That's my point, Blue. I'm glad you're questioning
what
it.
Situation,
it shows that you have some logic in your mind, Blue.
What situation would call for you to be defusing a bomb and smoking a cigarette at the same time?
I mean, usually one where the bomb's going to blow up inevitably, so you just give up on life and you just want to enjoy yourself.
Just like, let me have one more of these before.
See that? Much better. Flash goes through. Lucas is there. Two-man push on Ivy. They get the pick. That is how they should have been doing it all along. And although they give up the front of the site because they're not in a good position, that's still winnable if they can still get back out and win these duels. So Phelps is still here. He's still fighting forward. Unfortunately, Shara does get the better of him, but it's 2 versus 2.
Shara's making a hero play right now with these 2 trades that he's picked up. It's actually saved Flipside from absolute disaster. However, they're still not secure as of yet. Still working a 2 versus 2. And also, N1 pushing in from the alternate tunnel. He could find some serious damage if they don't consider that. Flash rolls in. It actually flashes N1 a little bit there. But Shara going to be inside of the molly. He's got to be careful. Now down at 18 HP, and they're trying to push back in now. World at it, paying close attention over here to the bomb train. He's actually been hit by the op from N1, so he's dropped down to 17 now. Such low HP on all these players. And look, the World at it is literally sitting directly next to Bolts, but he hasn't realized it. He's pushed out of the smoke. Still doesn't know what's going on right now. They still haven't found World at it. He's going to open fire now. Manages to take down Bolts with the smoke between the remaining 2 players, and World at's pushing in, but he's firing too heavily. Just trying to keep himself a mystery right now. But Henny peeks out, and now the question is, does he have enough time? He doesn't have a kit. He's moved out looking for one. He's not going to be able to grab this round. Flipside are going to steal it away, and we're going right back up to 11-2, and Tempo Storm's economy gets reset.
Hugely disadvantaged that they didn't find, or hugely unfortunate they didn't find a kit in that situation. They did well to get back in with the 2 versus 2. World at it, like you said, went absolutely bananas with that Tech 9. Had no chance but to go for the knife, and he actually would have spotted him on his left side if he'd been able to fall back and still have ammo. It would have been a fight worth winning, but Henny, that's just heartbreaking, isn't it?
There was so much missed info from both teams in that round too. It's just so much stuff that
cluttered.
Yeah, so much stuff that wasn't being communicated properly. So it became a little bit of cluster towards the end of it. But Flipside, good play there too from World at it as the final player left alive there, and just sort of waiting that one out. And obviously early on in the round, do not count Shard out. But already the take is going to be getting Flipside kick up the heat so quickly now in this round. They've already pushed themselves up the short lane, have control of the Ivy tunnel, but it is smoked off, so they've got to be a little bit more cautious considering Lucas's position. But now they move for the bomb train, and they're going to go for a quick plant.
Blade, though, does fire back, spots Lucas. They've got, again, control of Quad and of Hell. They'll keep Bolts and Tempo a little bit outside of the smoke, inside of that Z connector, as Lucas is going to try and work in now and retake that territory, but it's a long-distance shot from Blade that covers him off from Quad. Phelps has 3 still in front of him, but no one to play support with and not utility to try and win this duel with. They've all got kits this time, so no mistake in that regard, but Markeloff's going to find Phelps. Good picks up before that from Bolts, but I have to say Markeloff has definitely stepped up in this major qualifier. Let's not forget as well in the last major, he was the best player for Flipside, so shows up in these big moments. Henny's made this interesting with a kill apiece, but no kit, 1 HP. And we'll give him credit for the shot on Markeloff, but that's now going to be another round for Flipside, and still only 2 rounds going in favor. They'll force everything they can, but they're only going to be able to get out from Osses, or in this case, okay, Phelps goes for the shotgun. I was going to say SMGs potentially.
The worst part about it, yeah, I mean, Tempo Storm just forced up in that last round. N1 pulled off a hero play, but it happened so late. That's often been the story for Tempo Storm, these retakes, is that they just wait way too long. They go in and try to execute, and unfortunately, there's unaccounted factors that get in the way of them actually retaking the site. There's no time left to defuse. This has happened 2 rounds in a row now, and one, despite that hero play, it doesn't really matter, and now this force, I don't really expect it to do all that much considering the history of these lighter rounds from Tempo Storm throughout this half. Flipside already picking up 1 kill off of the hands of World at it, able to shut down Lucas. Phelps peeking back out, looking for maybe 1 trade here on the Markeloff. He's got that shotgun, he's got the advantage, but he's been smoked off, and also World at it is here to assist his teammate now, should he end up peeking out through that smoke. They still know he's there, he's still firing shots and whatnot, but also some aggression coming out over here towards the back of the B bomb site too. Bolts will be looking for a kill if he can find it. Bondic did end up taking down Showtime, but Phelps trades out the kill onto Markeloff and takes him down. However, World at it shuts down Phelps before he can find anything else. They do spot the fact that it is going to be an outer hit, but it doesn't matter. It's a 2 versus 4, and one's just got a pistol. It's the same thing for Bolts. There's nothing he can do. This is more than likely going to end up being a 13-2 half and an absolute crushing defeat here for Tempo Storm.
Bolts has a dream of going to a major, but it's slowly fading. Actually, I shouldn't say slowly. It's quite quickly fading.
I thought you were about to just go all in and just like completely make fun of their dream to go to a major. I was about to be like,
don't make your dreams be memes. But it is now a 13-2 half for Flipside. It was mentioned on the desk that without cash, it was highly unlikely Tempo Storm would be able to push forward and push this to Inferno on train. It's not their map. It's not a map they play very commonly, and it definitely showed in that particular scenario. Now, the question is, if they can get this pistol, how much can they even salvage in this? Or do they just let themselves bleed out and get it over with?
They have too few mistakes that they're allowed to make in this half. Keep in mind now, they are 11 runs away from tying, and way more than that from taking this map away.
You're optimistic.
And that's and that's assuming if Flipside doesn't pick up any rounds in the meantime. So if Flipside wins a pistol, it's basically over. There's nothing they can do to respond to it. If they don't win the pistol, there's a very small chance to make a comeback, but it has to be flawless on this T side. And we hark back to Cash, and we saw just how timid this T side was and how poorly the strats were being executed from these guys. They weren't accounting for Flipside just rotating in so fast.
A little bit different map in the fact that there's not as much. So if you're going to execute on B, it's going to be quick no matter what, because you're running through 2 small choke points. So that that right there is going to force them to speed up. But it's a little bit different on A, where you can actually try and lurk in, and you can get that real estate near the trains, get into work quads. So in some senses, I actually think, like I said at the break, this map almost favored the way they were playing on Cash a little bit more than that map, because there's so much open ground on Cash that you have to execute with smokes, you have to Molotov off the right spots. Again, I still don't think it's going to be a half that's going to come anywhere near this comeback. Like you say, it has to start with the pistol, but there is a chance that the slower style can actually benefit them if they can give up, if Flipside plays passive and gives them up map control. So we'll see how it works out, but pistol round, as we always do. Looking into the buy once more, only 2 sets of armor for Flipside, so they're looking for a shutdown play. Utility on the CT side early on is actually a bit peculiar. We don't often see this, and it's going to be Henny and Bolts that play utility on the opposing side. They've thrown 1 smoke for fake out toward A, and the Molotov's in the hands of Henny, but bomb plant's already coming in.
World Edit picks up a second kill there too as he moves in. He tries to take down Shara. It doesn't work out. Showtime only managing to trade out one of these blows here, but even he's going to be quickly traded down there by Shara. But just 2 HP finds that kill as well. They've got the molly. They're going to throw it over on top, but I believe there's a smoke sitting on top of it. They can't even stop this because they don't even realize it. World Edit picks up another kill, and Blade just diffuses. Tempo Storm are a mess. And now it's going to be 2 to 14. And Sadakist, what's 2 and 14 divided by 2?
Blue.
What?
Blue. It's blue. The answer's blue. The answer's always blue.
I don't think the answer to that question is the color.
Okay, you have to rephrase it. If you're taking 14 divided by 2, it's 7, and 2 and 14 divided by 2 is 8, because that would be 16.
Okay.
You didn't phrase it very well.
2 separate numbers divided by 2.
Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 14 divided by 2 is 7.
What's that?
Where are you going with this, Blue?
I obviously didn't watch the World Cup.
I obviously not.
7-1.
Oh, the Germans? These guys aren't German. That doesn't work.
They're Brazilians, though.
But that was a reach. Phelps, I'll give you credit for trying.
Thanks,
Probably
man.
better than most of my jokes in this game. Phelps is going to be at least holding back inside, or rather outside of the site, playing a little bit more passively, but he's going to go with Lucas down the lower ramp instead. It's the Tech 9s. World Edit from a distance. The one Molotov isn't going to be enough to discourage the shot from the M4, and this encourages Shara to try and push up on top of the tanker. He finds one headshot as well to deny the bomb plant. He may go down in the end, but they've done enough. Henny, the last alive, he's going to fall, and it's going to be map, series, and qualification point for Flipside Tactics.
Such an unfortunate strain of events here for Tempo Storm throughout this entire qualifier. Such high hopes coming into it, just dominating all of the North American qualifiers over the past couple of weeks here for IEM, DreamHack, Malmo. You name it, these guys have been making their way through it. And even the last chance qualifiers to get to this very event here, even coming into this event, their first match was actually rather impressive versus G2, 16-13 versus one of the top teams in Europe. And almost beating them there, too, just to make it into the winner stage of this one. But now, about to drop to Flipside, a team which many people thought Tempo Storm would be able to beat rather easily. And they're about to get 2-0'd by them, and on the second map with a brutal scoreline as well.
Brutal's putting it lightly. You could also say savage and wrecked, as Markeloff's going to cover off from Ivy right now. Bolts and Henny, the ones on the opposing side, they've both got Tech 9s to work with. All 5 players do. This Blade's going to flash back in toward that A main position, get aggressive as well, as there's a smoke already deployed, so he'll get close in the corner. Gives him the lineup toward ladder, but he's actually going to fall off of it immediately as World Edit calls that they've got a little bit of pressure being applied toward Ivy. He's going to come back into a more favorable position for trades. World Edit spots one, slight gap in the smoke. Bolts goes down, and he pops out, though. Good response onto Markeloff. No gun to be grabbed, though. It's far away, and he still would have to confront the second player. As now Blade's going to try and go to work. He's found by Lucas, but he and Phelps are now the last 2 alive. And it is a 2-on-3, still a chance. World Edit not looking the correct direction. That's a gun that's grabbable, but Phelps is going to try and juke and jive back toward the other direction. Bait out the 2 remaining CT players as Bondik's going to push through that smoke. He's found as well. Phelps fighting forward, perhaps just prolonging the inevitable as Shara gets the kill into him. Lucas has bomb, but only 28 HP.
28 seconds left on the clock now. Shara does believe this is going to be a rotation over towards the B bomb site, but it's not the case. Lucas is just taking his time, wrapping over towards Ivy. Both players are on completely separate sides of the map right now. So a bit of a misread from Shara, but he's very quickly going to be able to figure out exactly where this position is. If he finds it quickly enough, he can get in towards that A-bomb site before he actually has chance. Lucas is to get him into a post-plant position, and I believe he hears the plant happening now towards the A-bomb site. So he's going to push himself in. Lucas trying to fall back. He's actually going to stick pretty far out in the open here, but he's fired that shot, missed the first one, but connects the second one, brings him down to 6 HP. Going to toss the nade in, only going to cost 2 down though. And now it's 4 HP versus 28. Lucas has the advantage here. Catches the off angle, knows where Lucas is, but I don't think the other's been realized as of yet. Thankfully, Lucas is going to be able to close it out, so Tempo Storm will delay the inevitable here a little bit as they manage to find a third round.
Could you say they've weathered the storm, Blue?
There you go.
I would say that's what Flipside's been doing.
That's a pretty good one right there.
It was awful.
Better than the other ones.
You're right. Progress is a steady process. So it is going to be another forced buy from Flipside. They've got a better rounds to work with, so forcing this early won't hurt them too much late, but remember that can cost teams in situations like this. We've seen it before. Go back to the European minor. And it's going to be a UMP for Markeloff. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's AK, M4 picked up by Bolts, and then 2 Galils to complement from Henny and Showtime. Markeloff's playing the long position with this UMP. And there's 2 players here. Molotov to clear in behind the server. Make sure he's not pushed up in a more favorable position. He hasn't yet shown his shoulder. He's just staggering to see if they push down the alley. He'll get the first shot, the first exchange, and a smoke will delay things further.
Lucas also being a little bit cautious too with his positioning just in the back of the B-bomb site. Watching out to make sure Flipside are not going to go for a push onto them. As the Tempo Storm try to line up this default push to get themselves into the outside yard. Make their case to take another round away here. Start this very, very long road to attempt to come back. Flipside, 3 players stacked out here. 2 actually fairly heavily committed to the B-bomb site, which could become a problem if this default execute goes well. With them being so far positioned up, they are going to be a couple more seconds away on the rotate. However, now Bondic, I think he sees the play coming, so he is going to fully commit himself over here towards the A site. And also that Ivy push starts, but they're again a little bit timid. This is that same problem we saw back on Cash. They're very scared to actually get themselves out onto the site and start this execution. They go for it. Phelps finds the first kill, but it's at a heavy cost to his own HP.
Blade, though, does get 1 kill, not traded. Henny knew he was there, fires up, and now they've got the round firmly in their hands. It's Shara that's left alive, but he comes out and nearly lines up 2 with the 5-7. Lucas turns back in time based on the information relayed, and now it'll be 4 for Tempo Storm. And they'll have to save in complete fashion this time on Flipside. So, Blue, our relationship is going to last a little bit longer.
Just a bit.
Yeah, and then I'm done with you.
At least for one more save round. I don't really like you either, if I'm being honest.
It's fine. No one does.
Pretty hostile relationship.
Yep.
All right. So Flipside onto a full save essentially here. Just a couple P250s being invested on the Shara and Markeloff. Not much beyond that. We've already got a bit of a failed grenade tossed out by Lucas there. I think he was expecting that to bounce a little bit further, so he's going to lose 30 of his own health pool. However, this is still a very easy round to manage for Tempo Storm, so not a lot of pressure on them as they line up the same take as before.
Lucas does spot Shara's shoulder, forces him back in the depths of the confined site of B, as World Edit is close by. 2 players pushed up toward Ivy right now. Smoke out on the right and left, but they're going to go slowly and surely toward where Markeloff is trying to hold in the outback. Good camera angle shows us exactly what we're talking about. Markeloff on that peak would have spotted them. Now he needs to play this carefully. He's trying to pre-fire that angle, looking for the one-off headshot. He's a little bit low on his crosshair placement to find it, though, hitting the shoulders instead as Henny is going to walk out. That takes down Blade inside of the site, and now it's just World Edit left on the outer position. He's spotted already from ladder, and they'll quickly converge onto his position, finding the last as well as Shara tries to come back over from B, and all 5 stay alive. Flipside this time, though, will buy back into the round, and they're going to go do so without an AWP, so they're going to have a 5-rifle approach to try and close this down.
Interesting to do this now, too. There was nothing really prohibiting them from going for at least one more save to try to get the out back in the hands of World Edit. World Edit, in this entire set, has really come alive. He's actually leading his team in frags by a pretty big margin right now. He's up at 25 and 10. The next 2 highest players are Shara and Bondic, down at 17 and 14 and 17 and 12, respectively. So he's a pretty big piece of the puzzle here, essentially, and with this huge cushion of a lead, basically the biggest cushion they could have looked for. These guys, there was no real reason as to why they wouldn't have been able to save for this round and just go for the op on the next one. So basically just trying to end the game as quickly as possible, as it would seem now, by going for the rifle investment. Maybe trying to surprise Tempo Storm a little bit with the guns this time.
And he trying to just wait this out, see what his teammates can figure out for him as he's got the AWP and the bomb beside him way back toward his own spawn. Showtime watching top of ladder, but full passive play right now from Flipside. No one daring to force the issue. In fact, completely giving up Ivy and playing 3 inside of the outer site. More and more, it's looking like it will be a split in that position as they've got smokes on both the sidewalk, but that's countered by Shara. Lucas shouldn't care too much about this as he's going to play on the lurk as bolts. Well, I take this back. It looked like they were going to try and rotate back in toward the inner site.
So now Tempo Storm get ready to make the push now. It's just going to be a big one working its way over here towards the B-bomb site, putting a lot of pressure right now on Ashara to hold this. As he comes up on top of the first, and it's a great pop flash as it blinds pretty much everybody on the team. However, the rotations are going to be very slow now working its way in from Flipside. He only ends up getting a 1-for-1 roll that it does find a second one, but he too is going to get dropped by Lucas. Then Bondic rolls in, picks up another kill, but he has to fall away.
But World let it drop the bomb on transition, so they still don't have this down, and they're allowing a lot more opportunity for Flipside to get close. Now, they are still considering the fact that it could have rotated back to outer, which I'm surprised about because Bondic's already got to ladder, which should confirm that they won't be there. He's taken down by bolts when he arrives. That puts it at 2 versus 2, but Blade's going to go. They now know they're still in the inner halls. It has to be an inner plant. Markeloff's got the first kill. It's down to just bolts to try and prevent this from going any further. He does have the Molotov at upper right now, can go for the door bounce. But there's still ample time. No kits, though. That's the other crucial aspect of this. If that Molotov lands at the right time, it's going to buy 7 seconds plus 10 more for the defuse.
I think it's slightly off mark. I think Markeloff can defuse it.
He can get to the edge of it soon and will dissipate. Blade knows he's up there. He's going to try and get up and go for the trade. Off the ladder quickly. Pre-fires into it. That's going to do it. Flipside's going to qualify. And Tempo Storm will fall in 2. So we now have our 6th team this weekend qualifying. 2 to go.
And unfortunately for the Brazilian fans out there, still only going to have 1 team representing their country as of yet. And it's going to be Luminosity Gaming to have to carry that torch and carry that hope on to try and win a major. Tempo Storm not going to be able to make it in this time. However, still a very bright future, at least in the North American region for this team with their recent successes in other events.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to them. They've got Katowice next week as well. They were able to qualify over all of the North American teams to that event as well. So they've still got some decent tournaments. That's 12 teams, $250,000 in the Spodek Arena. That's going to be sold out. Lots of passionate fans in that particular region. So they've still got lots to look forward to. But hey, I mean, that's a good effort. They came reasonably far in a short amount of time, and not only that, representing a new sponsorship. I mean, just graduating from that program, which Fallen put into place to get them here. So I think they've got a lot to look forward to as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, let's talk a little bit about Flipside and their successes in this set. Shara, too, who's a player, we talked about this after the end of the first map. Shara, who was a player that was really struggling in their earlier sets, too, came alive here. Not necessarily the biggest player, but a huge improvement from some of his matches over the past 2 days, and a quintessential part of clutching out quite a few of those rounds for his team.
Well, that said, we'll see what the analysts have to say about this first best of 3. Remember, there are 2 more coming up and 2 more spots left on the line for MLG.
So thanks a lot for that, gentlemen. And of course, that does mean that Flipside are going to go to the major. And Markeloff's going to continue that amazing run of having played in every major, which is unprecedented. Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about Tempo Storm. I don't know what it is, Duncan. I've got that vibe. But let's just talk about Flipside. To the victor of the spoils. And this was a powerhouse performance. And in particular from World Edit, who I've been critical of in the past. You know, I don't think he's a very consistent player. I don't think he's particularly at his best at LAN performances. This was a monstrous series from him.
Yeah, and continuing on to the second map, he was the carry player of the team. One of the things Moses, I remember, when his analysis was like, I'm not sure Flipside, in terms of firepower, can match up against this Tempo Storm team. Again, he watched a lot of online games. No, but the thing is, obviously, World Edit was the best player in the series. He was playing very well.
He wasn't plugged into Cerebro that weekend. Like, find the firepower.
There we go. That's how is that how you do it, Moses?
We're back in the room. Okay.
I'm obviously the Magneto to your Professor X. Please, there's a better way, Thorin.
Right, anyway.
Magneto is a dick.
Kill them all.
Right, come on, back to the game.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say, in the end, if he's Professor X, World Edit was a beast, and Storm, very lackluster, you know.
Pretty good, actually.
Storm, of course.
Yeah, enjoying that.
That was the reference.
So what about you, man? Your prediction was
How
wrong.
overt does it have to be?
You got to say some good things about Flipside.
Oh yeah, no, that was a ridiculous performance out of them, and it's crazy. They looked just 2 weeks ago. We were talking about they didn't look good. You know, they were played CLG. CLG actually beat them out on LAN, and you know the whole thing was Flipside just did not look this polished, this good, and they came into this qualifier. And I know some of the other analysts, like you know, like Henry. I know. Vendetta, Yanko, these guys are just like something about Flipside in these major qualifiers is just insane. They come to play here, and this was such a polished performance out of them. I mean, they didn't drop the ball whatsoever. They put Tempo Storm in their place, kind of let them know you guys aren't there yet.
Yeah, and lots of positives for Flipside at the moment. Obviously going to the major, they've announced new sponsors and stuff. Very exciting time for them. But let's talk about Tempo Storm. These are the guys that are going to be up and coming.
I just want to say, here's what I think about Tempo Storm, Rich.
Right,
You ready?
Brutal.
Savage. Right.
Pretty good.
It's not bad, right?
It's like you was in the room.
Let's do my best.
But yeah, they did get absolutely wrecked. And here's the thing now a lot of people are going to say about them, oh, but you didn't have Fallen behind you, calling your tactics for you this time, and you got found out. Is that disrespectful to Tempo Storm? I mean, there is a huge step up between doing an online qualifier against NA teams and then coming to a LAN and playing against veterans in Europe.
Yeah.
And this is just part of their development. So, you know, is it harsh to be critical of them, or should people rightly stick the knives in?
No, it's fair to be critical of them. I think it's not fair to say it's because Fallen wasn't here. I think that is going to be an adjustment where they don't have him maybe between maps to talk to them, where they don't have, you know, just his presence probably in that practice room is probably very calming and helpful to him when he can see something. So that's something they're going to have to adjust to for future events for sure. I know they'll be out in Katowice where he can talk to them a little bit about some things that they saw that went wrong, maybe help them make adjustments, but eventually they're going to have to get over that. But I don't think this performance wasn't all because Fallen wasn't here, just because they just got crushed. You know, if it was close, maybe you could say maybe Fallen gives them that little extra piece of information, that little extra motivation, some kind of a tidbit between the match that they could have used. But I mean, this was just a stomping.
Duncan?
Well, first of all, you have to say that in the game against G2, I mean, that was fine. They were doing well in that game. That was a quality match.
That's the thing.
So that one's fine. And then, obviously, they smashed Selfless, so everything fine again. In this particular series here, I think the big difference in this series, aside from, N1 didn't really match up to what World Edit brought, was actually, if you look at the overall approach, you have to give a lot of props to Blade. Like, if you looked at, this was one of the few series where when you look at it, the maps that they don't play were so obvious, both teams. So actually, you could quite easily predict what maps would be banned, which was, as we saw, it would be Overpass and... let me think. Yeah, Overpass and Dust 2 with the bans. So knowing that, Blade could have known basically what would be banned. Then he could know what he could pick, and also probably guess what they might pick.
And just
so as a result, a good in-game leader can prepare for this, and he can have things ready. So I think that's a difference. The NA teams online, NA teams notoriously not very good at preparing for opponents. In general, not very good at watching demos, etc. And famously tend to just ban for their own comfort. So I think this was an example of, performance-wise, Tempo Storm not there. Flipside, World Edit very good, but also the leadership aspect, big disparity in terms of what Blade was able to bring the series from the other guys.
And just to add to that, obviously we did see them on Inferno twice, which is their best map.
Yep.
Didn't get that here, and it was quite telling. I can see you did have something to say, but I have been told we're going to go and do an interview with Markeloff, so you're just getting shut down.
Wrecked.
You're just getting shut down, Death Star head. Peace. Right, anyway, we are going to go to that interview. We've got Chris Puckett on the stage with the legend Markeloff, qualifies for another major. Take it away.
Thank you, guys. Puckett here with Markeloff. You are going to another major, my friend. Today, one of the most dominant performances we've seen from Flipside. I was backstage talking with Angel from Hellraisers. He said, this is the best I've seen them. What did you do to prepare for today's match against Tempo?
I don't know. We spent like the whole day yesterday, especially Blade and Hector, watching demos. We knew exactly what maps we're going to play against Tempo, and we were well prepared for them.
Were you were expecting to play Train?
Yeah, of course, and Cash as well.
And talk to me a little bit about your T side. You guys just looked like you were running through people there in game number 2. How are you able to execute your strategy so well?
We knew that they are not very good on this map as City. They don't know exactly what to do. So we basically, the first half of the City side, or of T side, I was faking LA, like alone. And then they just went B 3 times or 4 times in a row, and it worked out.
How much did you know about Tempo Storm coming into this tournament? I know you guys were watching the G2 match very closely.
I haven't seen them that much, maybe 2 maps, maybe 2 streams, but it's not actually my job. So But Blade and Hector watched a lot of their demos, and I don't know, they knew much more than me about this.
Well, you've fallen short of making it out of groups at the majors twice, very close matches in the past. What are your expectations coming in now? You have Shara on this team. He seems to be fitting in very well. What are your expectations coming into the $1 million major?
Wow. I'm very exciting. My team as well, I guess. Who couldn't? But I don't know. We'll start practicing very hard when we'll come back home. I don't know what we're going to do exactly, but we'll see. We have a lot of time to prepare and show some new things.
What are you going to be working on in the few weeks leading up to this event?
Maybe a little bit open. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, my friend, congratulations once again. He's going to another major. The action continues, guys. 2 more best of 3s when we return.
Join us on April 1st through the 3rd at the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. Watch the best teams in Counter-Strike Global Offensive go head-to-head for a guaranteed prize pool of $1 million.
He could be able to get this. Got the ace clutch! Shazam!
Teams like Fnatic, Envious, Virtus Pro, and many more will be there. VIP is sold out, so make sure to get your general admission tickets now. Buy your tickets now at mlg.tv/csmajor.